The story that you are about to hear is a compilation of documented true facts, featuring characters, events, or places that has played a role in shaping history. Please sit back and listen as I recite this narrative for you. Bernard Julius Otto Kuehn and his wife were German-born spies for the Japanese government. They provided the Japanese with intelligence related to the attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii on December 7, 1941. The first documented attention the FBI gave to Bernard Kuehn is shown in a February 11, 1939 FBI memo sent to J. Edgar Hoover, where he is described as an advanced student of Japanese language, entertained lavishly, particularly Army officers, no apparent source of income, owned 2 homes, one very large, mysterious as to length of stay and reason for residing in Hawaii, defend Hitler in a clever manner. The memo mentions the FBI's lack of having a special agent in charge in Hawaii. The FBI office in Hawaii was closed in 1934. It reopened in 1937 but was closed again in 1938. The FBI Bureau in Hawaii reopened and remained open in August 1939 under the leadership of Special Agent in Charge Robert L. Shivers. Shivers immediately began investigating the possibility that there were Japanese spies working in Hawaii. Very soon, the Bureau was suspicious of Kuehn. He had questionable contacts with the Germans and Japanese. He'd lavishly entertained U.S. military officials and expressed interest in their work. He had 2 houses in Hawaii but no real job. Investigations by the Bureau and the Army, though, never turned up definite proof of his spying. Bernard Julius Otto Kuehn was an associate of German propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels. Despite lacking formal training as a spy, Goebbels sent Kuehn to the U.S. territory of Hawaii in 1935 to work with Japanese intelligence agent. Kuehn began collecting intelligence for the Japanese immediately, with assistance from his wife, Friedel Kuehn, his daughter Susie Ruth Kuehn, and his young sons Hans Joachim and Eberhard Kuehn. His daughter dated U.S. military personnel and opened a beauty parlor that offered the best and cheapest services in the city. Wives of high-ranking military personnel would spend hours gossiping about the comings and goings of their husbands and boyfriends. Bernard Kuehn's son, Hans Joachim Kuehn, was only 11 years old when he was trained by his father to ask precise questions about the ships and submarines. Young Hans was also trained to notice some critical areas on those ships and submarines. Every morning, Bernard would dress up young Hans as a U.S. Navy sailor to show their patriotism, and they would both go walk along the waterfront. The officers would then invite Hans into the ships and submarines, and that is when Hans would start spying. Little Hans was debriefed as soon as the Kuehns arrived home from their walks, and his contributions, like all the information the family garnered, were recorded by Frau Kuehn in her fine hand. At first, this intelligence was secretly delivered to the Japanese Consul General, who forwarded it to Tokyo via couriers with diplomatic immunity. When Japanese master spy Takeo Yoshikawa arrived in Honolulu, he was given a torn piece of paper and an envelope stuffed with some $14,000 in cash and instructed him to meet someone at a beach house. A man offered a torn piece of paper whose edges matched his own. About as close as Yoshikawa got to classic cloak and dagger espionage. That man was Kuehn. The Japanese intended for Kuehn to continue espionage on Oahu after the Pearl Harbor attack, when presumably Yoshikawa would have been arrested, deported, or worse. A few days after receiving Yoshikawa's payment, Kuehn gave Kita a plan that would provide intelligence after the attack to Japanese ships and submarines. Bernard Kuehn would send coded messages to Japanese consulates. A Japanese agent claimed that Bernard lacked spying skill and was not made for the job offered by Goebbels. He would engage in his spying activities even when he was at risk of getting caught. Kuehn had set up a complex system of signals all worked out to pass information to nearby Japanese submarines. Bedsheets on clotheslines, lights on dormer windows, car headlights, a boat with a star on its sail. Due to the efforts of the Kuehns and Ishikawa over the years, the Japanese knew virtually everything there was to know about Pearl Harbor by December 7, 1941. In November 1941, Kuehn had offered to sell intelligence on U.S. warships in Hawaiian waters to the Japanese consulate in Hawaii. On December 2, he provided specific and highly accurate details on the fleet in writing. That same day, he gave the consulate the set of signals that could be picked up by nearby Japanese subs. Bernard Kuehn had a complex system of signals all worked out. A light shining in the dormer window of his Oahu house from 9 to 10 p.m., for example, meant that U.S. aircraft carriers had sailed. A linen sheet hanging on a clothesline at his home on Lanikai Beach between 10 and 11 a.m. meant the battle force had left the harbor. There were 8 codes in all, used in varying combinations with different signals. The day of the attack, December 7, 1941, while the Kuehns were watching the carnage, they were still sending coded information to the Japanese army from their cottage that overlooked Pearl Harbor. Although the information sent to Japan were not very valuable, the Kuehns went unnoticed by the Americans until the day of the attack. While still sending the messages, there was a flashing light that was showing from the Kuehns' lodge. This triggered an alert in the eyes of the military intelligence. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor, Japanese documents were captured that mentioned the set of signals. The clues pointed to Kuehn and he was arrested. He gave a confession but denied ever sending coded signals. On February 21, 1942, 76 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Bernard Kuehn was found guilty by a military tribunal of spying and sentenced to be shot by musketry in Honolulu. After volunteering valuable information about the Japanese and German spy networks, his sentence was commuted to 50 years hard labor, but after the war, he was deported to Germany. His daughter and wife also served time in prison, and both went back to Germany on their release. Hi, this is Twisted Mind. Quick question for you. Do you like reading romantic stories? If so, in the description box below is a link to an app called Dreame that features a writer under the pseudonym of Annabel Lee. Please click and follow her. Thank you. Hey everyone! I just wanted to express how grateful I am that you took the time to listen to my narration. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I am Twisted Mind and please enjoy the rest of your day. Salamat!